What's going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name is Captain Nostalgia. I am a writer, podcaster, and the director of our film festival entitled Horrific Hope. If you guys would like more information on this upcoming year's festival, including ways to submit your screenplay, short films, feature films, along with all of our social media, more podcasts, movie reviews like this, and most importantly, ways to break free from depression, anxiety, suicide, etc. Check out our mental health resource library. Check out the resources in the show notes below. So the cold opening, I did get one of these. And I tried my best to raid my wardrobe to get as close to Brad Pitt's ensemble in this movie as possible to contain my excitement about this movie, because we're talking about Bullet Train. So Bullet Train is such a complex narrative to kind of squeeze down into a simple solution. So I'm going to do my best without doing any spoilers. Brad Pitt plays a snatch and grabber. I'm not joking, that's literally what he identifies himself with, because up until the last act of the movie, you're not quite sure what his job title is until he actually says it. Tasked with getting a briefcase off a train into his boss's hands, and that journey is from point A to point B is not so simple, and a fun time erupts. So I'm going to start off by saying something that might piss off some cinephiles here, but this movie, structurally speaking, let me again repeat that, structurally speaking, seems familiar. It reminds me of The Gentleman meets Speed. Honestly, it's a little bit more complex than that, but structurally speaking, the way that the story and the way that the narrative is set up, you have a little bit of vagueness sprinkled throughout, and slowly pieces start to kind of come together until the grand finale in this movie. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing. I, for one, enjoy movies like that. I came into this movie completely blind. The only thing that I knew about this movie was that Brad Pitt was in it, Aaron Taylor Johnson was in it, Tyree Henry, and it had the theme song of Staying Alive. That was literally my introduction to this movie. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to have that same experience coming into this movie, but this type of movie, even if you've seen trailers for it, TV spots, know anything about this movie, this is the type of movie you come to the movies for. This is the throwback summer blockbuster that I don't want to say we've been waiting for, but again, much like Nope a couple weeks ago, this movie feels like something you would get in the 90s or the early 2000s, where it's a blockbuster event with a great cast. I'll talk about that more in just a few seconds, but there's no strings attached to a larger franchise here. And that's why I'll say, solely as a movie, this movie is a fun throwback. It is the reason why we go to the theaters. We go to the theaters simply to enjoy and simply to be moved and be entertained. And this movie does a lot of that stuff. Action in this movie is really awesome. I love the way that David Leitch, I'm terrible with names. If you're new to this channel, it's kind of my signature. It's kind of my hallmark. I'm really sorry if you somehow come across this Mr. David and you just see this. I'm really sorry. I love the way you shoot action, though. The action of this movie is shot really well. The fight choreography is really on point. It mixes a lot of kind of American styled fight tactics along the side of the kind of martial arts that you see in a lot of Eastern movies that kind of you don't really get to see here. But I think the two cultures blend really well, and yeah. This isn't my normal type of movie, so I'm a little bit out of my depth here. Cast is really great, they're really impressive, and I will even say that to some degrees, this cast is both a blessing and a curse. Blessing in the sense that we get another Brad Pitt role that feels refreshing. Like, this is the guy that used to headline 90s movies in early 2000s with films like Seven and Fight Club, and kind of getting to see him come back into a role like this was a lot of fun. It felt really nostalgic. Then mixing it into kind of the modern day age, you get Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. The two of them have incredible chemistry together. Like, I want to see a buddy cop movie with just the two of them and make it something along the lines of Let's Be Cops, and I think that it would just be immensely fun. Joey King, another great addition to this. She really kind of plays on that whole stereotypical kind of like shy, naive, young innocence, and kind of really shows that she can be corrupted and really kind of turns that stereotype on its head. And she was really entertaining in this movie. There are other actors and arcs in this movie that feel absolutely wasted and overcomplicate the plot for no reason whatsoever. And in my synopsis summary, the trying to sum up this movie in one single sentence is incredibly hard because there are so many different storylines that are going on at any given time, and then you get a random person that just shows up and somehow their story connects into this story and the larger narrative, and you're having to connect all the dots, and it kind of overcomplicates itself when it doesn't necessarily need to. With that, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you have performances from Zazie Beetz and Bad Bunny and Michael Shannon and even these, like, even Channing Tatum. There are certain actors and actors in this movie that just kind of show up, and while they have a great couple of moments, they're like, okay, this didn't add anything to the main story that's going on. Like, this was a cool aside, but let's get back to the story at hand. I feel like where this movie really shoots itself in the foot is it takes all these side players and attempts to weave them into the larger narrative. And it comes across really sloppy. Pacing in this movie, there are definitely times where this movie feels overly long, but there's enough happening that keeps you entertained that you kind of don't feel those moments of lull. Had this movie been a little bit tighter and had it kind of been trimmed by about 10 to 15 minutes, I feel like the story could have been a little leaner in essence. And I know I might get some crap on this, but I liked that this film has like a philosophical edge to it as well. Like, there's constantly like the juxtaposition of Brad Pitt's and Joey King's character. Is Brad Pitt essentially represents bad luck and Joey King represents good luck, and you kind of get to see how the two of them work opposite one another and kind of how their arcs slowly kind of converge into one another. It was interesting, but there's a lot of philosophical musings going on here. At the end of this movie has a lot of comedy that it lands really well, and something that I really found myself surprised by, the moments where I definitely laughed in this movie. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.5 out of 5 on the Rorschach rating scale. This movie, definitely a lot of fun. This is kind of the popcorn movie of the summer that I've seen so far. So if I had to recommend any movie to see on the big screen this year, it would be Nope, and it would be this. Let's talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health out from the film which we're talking about and dissect it for just a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct it just a little bit, the stigma surrounding mental health. I said throughout the course of this movie, it deals with bad luck, good luck, and fate. Like, those are the three things that are constantly kind of at the forefront of this movie. A point in the third act of the movie where two characters are conversating about what fate is and what it means. And honestly, that kind of got me thinking a lot. But what I'm gonna say is that the way that these two characters interact is said that every action that we do has a reaction. Since victims and villains has been a thing, and since we have been focusing on mental health, and even in our infancy as a podcast, long before we ever started doing movie reviews, Twitch streaming, YouTube videos like what you're watching right now, expanded into a podcast network, did conventions. That was always our thing, is that we wanted to encourage people to flip the perspective of the way that they're looking at life. From someone that has gone through depression, struggles with anxiety, and has kind of contemplated suicide, a lot of what has helped me over the years. And again, this won't work for everyone, but it's a step in the right direction, I believe, is not necessarily looking at the forest, but the trees of what's right in front of you. Every decision, every step, every choice that we make is essentially bringing us into a more of a stepping more into the forest. And I think it's really easy to just kind of get focused in on the forest and see, you know, oh, this thing's out of my control, or this thing is, you know, a reason why I am feeling nervous or depressed or whatever, and flip those. All we need is a perspective change, to instead of saying, oh, you know, today is a bad day. Today's a good day because I woke up today, I have air in my lungs, I have clothes on my back, there's food in my stomach, I have a job, or I have something that gives me purpose, or I have people that love me or care about me. And that list just kind of goes on. One of the very last lines in the movie is, what if this is a good thing? And sometimes the bad things that happen to us, we think it's bad luck, or we think it's fate, or we think it's cosmic, universal powers that are dealing directly with us, and all we can say is, you know, man, this sucks. But what if it's a good thing? Sometimes good things, sometimes bad things are meant to be good things. They're meant to be growing pains. They're meant to be ways in which we can achieve something better and something that makes us stronger. And some things, sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes we need things like medication, therapy, community, art. We need things that we feel like take away that, or distract us, or help us grow and channel that into something like poetry or art, music writing, movies, whatever the case is. Just find what gives you something that is going to help you to flip your perspective and understand that sometimes the bad things that happen to us in life have good purposes and good intentions, and we just can't see it yet. As always, if you or someone you know is struggling, and you're watching this right now, and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, depression, anxiety, or suicide, please consider the links in the descriptions below. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button and check out Bullet Train. It's now playing in theaters. If you guys have already seen it, comment below and let me know what you guys thought about it. But I gotta catch the next train. We'll be out.